What's going on, people? It's your boy, Mr. SOS. I'm back with another great episode of SETHONSPORTS. And today I'm here to talk hockey. Yes, hockey. I know everybody's saying, hey, Mr. SOS, we didn't know you like hockey. Man, if you don't like hockey or you've never been into it, this is the time to watch. Why? Stanley Cup playoff time. Now, I know it seems a little cliche to say this, but it's playoff time. What more could you ask for? Playoffs are always intense, just the same as the NCAA tourney, the NBA Finals, or the NFL playoffs. Except these dudes are on skates, ice skates, hitting hard, moving extremely fast. It's fun, it's up and down, it's exciting, and it's something to watch. So if you don't get into hockey at any other time, I suggest you get into it now, man. You could really miss out on the treat. I'm going to break down my predictions of the first round, maybe even going to some second and third round. But for now, I'm going to stick to first round. Let's talk about the matchups we got and who's actually in the playoffs anyway. Starting with the Eastern Conference. Now, you got the Washington Capitals versus the New York Rangers in the 1 versus 8 seed game. I got to go with the Capitals only because of Alex Ovechkin. This guy's a superstar. He makes things happen on the ice. I shouldn't have to say no more than that. But just to say a little more, this dude is probably the best person in hockey outside of Sidney Crosby. I'll get into Sidney Crosby later. But listen when I tell you, Alex Ovechkin is something to watch. Strong, powerful, a lot of muscle, hits hard, and can still make athletic plays on the ice. Very close, very good dude. You should keep an eye on him. Number 2 versus 7 seed, we got the Philadelphia Flyers versus the Buffalo Sabres. These two teams split the season games at 2 apiece, so I think this will be a pretty good battle. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Sabres in this one, only because I think the Sabres have a solid defense, and they got a good ability to score. I think it'll come down to maybe a game 6 game, and I think the Sabres can pull it off, man. I got a little faith in them. I just don't have much faith in the Flyers anymore. Moving on to the 3 versus 6 seed. The Boston Bruins versus the Montreal Canadiens. Boston was 3-4 against the Canadiens in the season. And I think that's kind of how this playoff is going to go. I think it's going to be a back and forth battle with ultimately Montreal winning in the end. Montreal's defense is really good. And I think if they can just score a little bit to maybe get in the lead, and all they have to do is sustain the lead with their defense, they're in really good shape. I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm going with Montreal 4-3. Last but not least, my favorite matchup, the 4 versus 5. But this all depends on if the Penguins leader, Sidney Crosby. Oh, I'm sorry. Pittsburgh Penguins versus Tampa Bay Lightning. I slipped up. But this series comes down to if Sidney Crosby is going to play. He's already ruled out for game 1. And without their leader, the Penguins are kind of sitting ducks. No pun intended. If he can bounce back, though, maybe even get back by game 2 or 3, they can pull it out and beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. As long as Crosby's on the ice, you got a really good chance of winning at all times. He's one of those kind of playmakers. People are calling him the little Gretzky. We'll see how his career turns out. But as of right now, they need him. And if he can come back, he'll make a lot of noise. Well, that's my predictions for the Eastern Conference. Guess we should talk about the West now, huh? Well, now that we're done with the East, we got to talk about the West. The West kicks off with a number 1 seed versus number 8 seed, as usual. But we got the Vancouver Canucks versus the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, the Vancouver Canucks had the best record in the NHL at the number 1 seed, but I am definitely picking the Blackhawks to beat them because the Blackhawks have been a thorn in the Canucks' side and have a mental edge in this one. Along with the fact that having the number 1 record hasn't fared too well in the playoffs. So I'm going to give it to Chicago winning this one. Chicago's played pretty well in the season, and actually we're 1 game away from maybe being a 4th or 5th seed, but they took a loss to the Red Wings at the end of the season. But definitely picking the Blackhawks over the Canucks. I just don't feel like the Canucks will be able to beat the Blackhawks yet. They're not ready. Not to mention, you can't count the Blackhawks out. They are the 2010 NHL Stanley Cup playoff champions. Now, the 2 versus 7 seed. The San Jose Sharks, my favorite team, versus the Los Angeles Kings. In this battle, I have to pick the Sharks. It may just be because I like this team a lot. But San Jose has a chance to make noise later in the playoffs. But they will knock off the Kings because of the Kings' lack of scoring ability, being ranked 25th in the league. I just don't think they'll be able to keep up with San Jose. San Jose plays pretty fast, and being the number 2 seed, they can score points. Plain and simple, they can score. And I think the Sharks definitely pulled away with this one. Then we got the Detroit Red Wings versus the Phoenix Coyotes. The Red Wings goalie, Jimmy Howard, has potential to carry the Wings when they need them. The Red Wings are experienced and will ultimately give them the series win. They actually had a pretty good game against the Blackhawks, as I mentioned earlier. They pulled off the victory this past weekend. Very good game, and Jimmy Howard showed up for them again. And I think with him having his contract situation taken care of in February, it takes less pressure off of him. He's going to be ready to play. He's going to be ready to step up for his team. And I just don't think Phoenix is ready yet. Then 4 versus 5. The Anaheim Ducks versus the Nashville Predators. Nashville's goal allowance has me believing that Anaheim will have their way with, along with Anaheim being on a 3-game winning streak coming into the playoffs. This gives them confidence. Gives them a swagger coming in, and I think it'll ultimately overtake anything that Nashville brings to the table. I think that coming in on a high note definitely does help them the most, though. Well, that's my first round of the playoffs. Hope y'all enjoyed it. More to come. Definitely gonna see more rounds. Gonna get deeper as we get deeper into the playoffs. Be sure, like I said, if you never watched hockey playoffs, you might want to, man. You definitely might want to. It's a sight to see. These guys are amazing on the ice. It's beautiful. Not to mention, you may get to see a fight or two in the playoffs. I'm sure you'll get to see a fight or 3 or 4 or 5, however many it takes to get their point across. All right? Cool. Well, people, there you have it. It's been wrapping up another episode of Set on Sports. Thank y'all for rocking with me. Hope y'all enjoyed this NHL hockey playoff preview. I got another preview coming for you this week. The NBA playoffs are starting. Very excited about that. If you haven't checked out the Tumblr, check it out at SETHONSPORTS.tumblr.com. Soon to be just SETHONSPORTS.com. Also, follow me on Twitter at SETHONSPORTS. Got some giveaways coming up. Big things coming from Seth on Sports. The next episode, the NBA preview, I will be having a special guest host, my boy D Jinx. You might have caught a write-up by him on the Tumblr page. Very knowledgeable dude. Gonna have him rocking with me. Till then, I'll see y'all next time with another episode of Seth on Sports, where it's not the same old stuff. SOS, baby.